Why has the enrollment for Black and African American students gone down at Southern for the last few years?
Also, how far has Southern progressed from this racist history?
Consider this conversation ignited. Hey everyone, welcome back to Ignite. My name is Patterson and I am a sophomore out of the SJC, also known as the School of Journalism and Communications.
Yay, he's learning. Hey guys, my name is Manuel and I am also a sophomore out of the SJC.
Next time you have to say the full title because it sounds so good. I'm Patterson out of the SJC. Doesn't matter. Today officially marks the third ever episode of Ignite and our second ever episode of Black History Month. So today we're going to be diving into another conversation head first, so buckle up, Southern.
When you dive, you don't dive like head first, you dive arms first.
I think it's like the expression when you like dive in, like your arms would break the impact. So if you're diving in head first, you just kind of...
So you kind of just like... If you think that this video is clickbait, it's not. Or is it? We're about to find out. Today we will be dipping our toes into the current racial assessment on campus through Professor Stephanie Guster.
Then we'll be taking a quick trip up north to Washington, D.C., where soon-to-be Dr. Philip Warfield, a graduate of Southern, will actually be talking about his research into Southern's racist history and the importance of its relevance today.
Yeah, but before we get into all that jazz, Cassie has put together a really cool video for us, so we'll let her take over now.
Do you think there's racial tension on Southern's campus?
I believe that there is probably some racial tension. I do believe, however, that it's not as high as probably other places. I feel as if people here kind of accept each other's, opinions.
Okay.
I don't see it being a big problem here, but I'm sure there's probably some.
I feel like there's a bit of racial tension. It's not a very obvious. How do I say it? It's not very obvious, but it's a subtle tension that's there, that's between the different races.
No, I think it's a very great, loving environment.
Why do you feel that way?
Just when I came here, everyone was really nice. Everyone seemed friendly. I don't think there was any hate towards anyone else. Yeah.
I'm not sure myself of how, to change something like that. I know that it's about making awareness and education, but it's just also changing people's hearts, which is super hard.
First, acknowledge it, I guess, to the general student body, and then I guess through surveys, and then take it through student senate and whatnot, and discuss different options that the students give on how to handle it.
With something like this, and also other intense topics when it comes to people, I feel we should address love, because it's a love issue. It's not a skin color issue, and that's with a lot of things that we struggle with as human beings. It's how do I address this? What do I do? What do I say? And it's just love. That's the most powerful thing anyone can do, is love our neighbors. So I feel it should be addressed by how do we love each other? How do we interact with each other? Mm-hmm. And how do we address what has happened? How do we learn that?
That was put together really well, actually. I love the part where the guy talks about love at the end.
I see what you did there, the love thing. That's nice.
I'm glad you read that part on the teleprompter, because I wrote that into the script on my own.
You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to say that.
Oh, sorry. That's my bad.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show and joining us. This is Stephanie Guster. She is the Senior Advisory for Diversity. And so she's joining us just to talk to us a little bit on diversity on campus. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Of course.
So before we get into today's discussion, I'd like to ask just a little bit about what the committee that you're on does.
Sure. So I serve as the chair for the University Diversity Committee, and we have sort of 5 targets that we focus on. One is understanding cultural differences on campus and really trying to involve all of our students in campus life. Another goal that we have is celebrating diversity. That's actually probably my favorite of the goals that we have as targets. And then another one has to do with recruitment of underrepresented employees, students, etc., from minority groups in particular. And another, I think I'm forgetting the fourth one, but the last one, of course, is looking for financial resources that will benefit our campus connected to diversity.
That's awesome. So what would be like the long-term goals and the short-term goals of this diversity team?
So the diversity committee, with those four to five areas, we often vacillate. We may be focused on one in 1 year and a different one in another year. So one of our short-term goals that we're working on right now is campus climate, and that feeds into the strategic plan that the university has. And so in the fall, you may or may not have had an opportunity to take part in our campus climate survey that asked questions about racial diversity and racial tensions and what people were thinking and feeling about their experience here on campus. So we are in the process of waiting on some data analysis. It's supposed to come out in March, and what the committee will do then is utilize that to design targeted interventions. It helps us in knowing that we're addressing the right things in the right way, and so we're really super excited about that, and that's in partnership with an organization called Renew Partnership that particularly has a focus on the spiritual component of racial climate, and so I think that's important.
Definitely. What does the conversation of racism look like in a more spiritual context?
Sure. I did bring one note because it's a new Bible verse that has just become so significant for me. And I'm going to try and give you all a shout out because the show is entitled Ignite, right?
Yeah.
And so I got curious what Bible verses focus on Ignite. And there's one in 2 Timothy 1:6. And it says, "Therefore I remind you to keep ablaze the gift of God that is in you through the laying on of hands." And I think what that says to me is we got to get lit. We have to get on fire about this issue, not just as employees, not just as students, not just as alumni. And the reason we have to do that is the Holy Spirit represents the fire. Aaron's not the fire, Sarah's not the fire, Professor Guster's not the fire, the Holy Spirit is the fire. And if we will get set ablaze about this issue, then we can do what God calls us to do, which is take the gospel to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. That is race relations. And the better able we are to do that, the sooner Christ comes. So that's, I think, the spiritual context that helps me in understanding how to frame racial issues and tensions.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a really good answer, and I like the Ignite plug. She came up with the name, so
okay.
high five
So
on that.
get lit. High
Yeah.
five.
Yeah, get lit on that. Got to get lit.
Get lit.
Get lit.
T-shirt.
Yes.
Merch.
Good night. So many good ideas. Awesome. Someone's taking notes. It's dope talking about what Southern is actually doing when it comes to racial inclusivity.
Yeah, because it's like our own campus. We actually have a special surprise. 2 people on the field have put together a package earlier for us this week, so we'll let them take over.
Yeah, why don't you gorgeous folks pick it up from here?
Thank you, Aaron and Sarah. Today we have with our guest. Thank you so much for being with us. Welcome to the show. If you would like to introduce yourself for just a little bit, that'd be great.
My name is Philip Warfield. I was a student at Southern from 2014 to 2019.
So tell us a little bit about that experience here at Southern. Were you, I know that we talked earlier and you told us that you had a couple of leadership positions here. Super interested, so just connect with us Southern students for a second.
So I was on the Southern Accent my freshman year as the news editor. From there, I went on to become a resident assistant in the dorm for a year, and I also did it just about every summer. I also worked for campus ministries. I was a life group coach. Wow. Shout out to Pastor Anna. I know she's still out there doing great work. Yep. And then, of course, from there, I became the Student Association president and did Studio 4109 and all these other different kinds of things.
Wow, that's awesome. You had quite the leadership positions there.
Well, when we were initially brainstorming up this episode, it's a really touchy conversation to some. It's a really important conversation, meaningful. And Professor Pablo actually mentioned your name and said that you had something called the Southern Project. So we went on your website and learned a little bit about it, but we knew we had to get you on here, and we want you to tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, yeah. And shout out to Professor Pablo. That's an incredible opportunity. But the Southern Project is a research project that is just about healing and reconciliation, actually. It's what I call a social history. It's a racial history of that institution. And it describes Southern Adventist University's journey through race relations from its inception all the way up to the present. It's nowhere near being close to complete. It's something I'm continuing to work on, but that's the gist of it.
Okay, so why do you think, in your own opinion, why do you think like bringing up Southern's, racial past, why is that important now when racism isn't as prevalent as it was before?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. But when you talk to some people, sometimes in the Black Adventist community and different other places, when we think about Southern Adventist University, unfortunately, what always comes up is that, oh, they're this, in quotes, racist institution. So I decided to explore that idea. Where does that come from? Why is it that whenever I go home or I go to anywhere else that's Black Adventist, why do I always hear that? So I wanted to just frame the conversation through history. Instead of just basing claims off of some event or this event or something that's happened to somebody here, why not just chart the entire institution's history and see what's happened and where people might be getting this from? And in a climate right now where we are in American history, where race and talking about injustice and inequality is really, really huge right now, as it honestly always should be. We should be trying to eradicate these things. I figured it's a good time maybe to talk about that within our own Adventist context.
So you mentioned Southern as an institution. You'll go back and people will say, Southern, oh, that's that racist school. How do you feel when it comes to Southern? Do you feel as if Southern has shifted away from being a racist institution? And if so, why or why not?
Sure. I would say absolutely. This is not the Southern Adventist, or rather the Southern Missionary College that it was 50 years ago when someone like me couldn't come. And it's not the same Southern where you would have to have, what was it? You'd have to ask people, white students, if you could have a Black roommate, but they would never ask the Black roommates. This is a totally different time period, and Southern is now one of the most diverse institutions in the South. So yeah, we're getting past that. However, there are still some culture changes that still need to happen for that kind of idea of Southern being racist to eventually dissipate. That's my hope.
So you touched a little bit on what Southern can do or like has done in like marketing and such, but how do you think Southern should confront their racism in the past, and how should they move forward to a more diversely welcoming future?
Yeah. Well, my biggest thing with the Southern Project was to be open and honest about the past. So often you'll see if something like this happens, when you have, for example, in my years there, we unfortunately had this old app called Yik Yak where people would go on and spout a lot of nonsense. And unfortunately, one year, there was somebody who just decided to call a lot of people, Black people, monkeys and other obscene names. And that was a big thing. Another year, we had somebody go to BCU night, Black Christian Union night, and post some really derogatory comments about Black people. And sometimes the critique at Southern is that Southern places these things under the rug. They don't fully go after it and talk about it. So what my biggest thing is for people is to sit back with your history, learn it, understand it, be honest about it, and then you can move forward as a whole and say, yes, you know what? We did used to do this. We were this way before. And it's not even to say, now look at us now, but it is to say we still have a whole lot of growth to do, and we're going to keep celebrating and protecting our students of color here and encouraging healthy dialogue and interactions with other people. It would also help if I think there is some way for students, if they want to research these kinds of things, to see this in a library, to hear it in their classes, just to be open and honest about this. the fact that students can do some of this research and they can communicate with all kinds of people in the community without often needing the money to do so. So often we wait for thousands of dollars in grant money and other things to help us move forward in addressing racist issues or whatever else. But you all are sitting here right now with a couple of camera angles and all kinds of tech and things that you can use to communicate with people, even in this pandemic age. My project was started in a pandemic, and because of it, I've had so many people open to interviews and talking about their experiences there at Southern, because I don't have to travel the thousands of miles to go and do it. I can talk to them, give them a voice, and I think that you all have that ability now, and it's important to use it. Don't wait always for the money. Your phone can be an amazing tool to use. Go out there and do it.
Thank you so much for being here today. It's a really important conversation, and I'm glad it's getting talked about at Southern. This is one of it's another first step, and it's a good step, and we're gonna keep taking them as a university. Sarah and I are gonna keep jumping headfirst into this. We really appreciate you being here and sharing all this with us, and we hope to see you again soon.
Yes. Wow, that was just very professionally done, if I do say so myself.
You did. Everything except for the guy sitting in this chair, his facial hair, that was a little gross.
Yeah, probably wasn't the best move on his part. But to those of you online, thank you so much for watching. Your views and support mean the absolute world to us.
Also, please check out our new Instagram, IGNITESAU, Ignite SAU. We're going to have a bunch of updates, stuff like that. And next week, we're going to be recording an Entrepreneurs on Southern's Campus episode. So make sure you watch next week's episode, because that's going to be awesome. That's it.
Yep.
Bye. Peace.
Bye.
We killed that.
We did.